Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us. We're tuning in right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X. We're welcoming in our friends now on IG. Glad you all can be with us. We're about to connect with our friends over on Amazon as well for part two of our series with Mark Money Green. You guys see him there. I want to talk to him about his book, The Show Must Go On. And for those who are tuning in on Amazon, welcome. You guys are joining us for part two of our series we're doing with Mark Money Green. You guys got to be introduced to him for our audience last week with this book, The Show Must Go On. You guys can see it there in the carousel on Amazon, either in paperback as I have it here, or you guys can be able to get the Kindle edition right now for only $14.99. We talked to Mark last week about what it's been like for him to think about the artists he's been able to work with and the impact he's been able to make. Today, though, we're going back. So for a lot of us, myself included, I did not know Mark's backstory, but he shares that in the book. We want to talk about that today and also the reflection on that. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon platform, make sure you guys do hit that follow button and stay connected with us. You see it either here in this corner or down below. For you guys joining us on social media, if you guys have any questions, I see you guys coming in. Lee, hello to you. Brenda, if you guys have any questions, put those in a comment. But Mark, welcome back to the broadcast, man.
Thank you, Cyrus. Thank you for having me.
Look, I appreciate it. Look, got a really good response from last week, so I'm excited about part two here. And again, if you guys have not gotten your copy of the book, it's really fascinating. Not only, of course, to think about the names that we'll recognize of artists that Mark has worked with, but also his reflection on that success for them and himself. Mark, I mentioned to you one question that came up last week after we wrap up our segment that I thought I wanted to kick this off with is, did you know when you got into the business that you would become as successful as you did, or was it something that as your time went on, you realized that this was a gift that you had?
Well, well, first, thank you. Your camera was breaking up a little bit. Could you
Okay.
just repeat that one more time?
Oh yeah, no problem. No, one of the questions I got, Mark, when we wrapped up the first segment was, did you know going in that you would be as successful? Because we talked about your determination last time. Did you know you would be as successful in this business as you have been, or was it something that kind of developed as your time in the business went on?
Yeah, it developed. I really didn't know. Again, it was just a passion, something I wanted to do. I never even thought about, trying to be successful in that term. But for the most part, I just wanted to be, great at what I was doing.
Mhm. And now here we are, and you actually literally kicked the book off, Mark, by telling us about how your beginnings with music itself began, and it may not be exactly what people expected. So I'm going to go back to actually chapter one of the book, and you actually start off that chapter is called "It Was All a Dream," and you kick the chapter off by saying this: "Music is my life." Those were the words written in my high school yearbook. Now, for people that may not have known your story, you started off as an artist yourself. So talk to us about what was it that made you know,
Okay.
Mark, that music was going to be the life you wanted?
Well, you know what it was, Cyrus. I mean, again, like when I was in eighth grade, I knew what I wanted to do. I started focusing on trying to understand the process of getting to that point. Um, it wasn't so much that I really wanted to be an artist. It kind of fell in my hand once I kind of discovered rapping. And then that actually became a point where I was able to start working and acting as a celebrity or artist per se.
Mhm. What I thought was interesting, Mark, something you seem to learn early on, that sometimes it takes all of us, even those who are not interested in music but may have our own passion, is the power of the pivot. Because you go on in chapter two to talk about how you thought that you guys would have your plaques and all of these things you would be able to have for yourself as an artist, right? But now here you are working with the people, helping them in their career to achieve those goals. What was it that made it okay for you to pivot? Because I think a lot of people, I think you'd agree with this, Mark, they sometimes feel like, okay, I didn't achieve this dream, so something is wrong. What made you realize that the gift was still there? It just was all in the way you chose to use it.
That's a good question. I mean, I'm looking back now, just going back to your first question. Yes, I thought about the band that we started. Yes, we did. We wanted to be the next Jackson 5. That was kind of our idea of stardom. I think after a while, we realized that we had limited talent, that we
Mm-hmm.
really didn't have the talent that it needed to become the Jackson 5.
Hmm.
And at that point, I think I kind of started moving towards trying to figure out another way to get into this business.
Okay. Okay. And you were able to find that, and I think that is why, as we talked about last week, Mark, I think this is why I'm so glad we're kind of breaking this series down the way we are. So now people better able to understand your passion for it. So this isn't just something that you just decided one day, you know what, I'm going to be able to work with these artists. This is something that has been a part of your life that you've been able to see both sides. You know what it's like to be the talent. You know what it's like to realize what that takes. Do you think that is also what has made you so successful as an agent, being able to realize when someone has the talent and, quite honestly, when they don't?
Yeah, absolutely. From being in the game and actually experiencing, on my side of the business, and just, not only that, but just being on the road with different artists and working with them, you kind of develop that mindset of what it is needed to be that artist, and realize who has talent and who doesn't.
Hmm. Yeah. And again, that's why the way the book unfolds is so interesting, because your way was not linear, Mark. You did not just say, okay, I'm going to be an artist and that's that. Even when you decided that maybe being in, yourself out front wasn't the thing, you were able to realize again the importance of the passion. I think for a lot of people, though, Mark, and I did not get the feeling of this in reading the book, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong. For you, it wasn't just about saying, I want to be rich. It wasn't just about saying, I want to be famous. It really seemed to be, I want to be able to do something special. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. When we're looking at back at that time, it was just about, wanting to be successful at what you do, but
Mhm.
loving what you do as well. It
Right.
wasn't about the money, how much money I'm going to make, because we didn't see that. Hip hop was very new at the time, and it was more like playing the dozens. It wasn't really thought of as something that was going to bring money or bring total fame at that point. So during that process, it was just about the passion, just enjoying what you were doing.
Mhm. You say in chapter two, I wanted to actually read this, Mark. I had made a note of it, and I thought this was really interesting. And I think it's another key point for the entertainment industry, but I think in the world we live in today with social media, for all of us, you talked about when it comes to thinking about what you all were doing with Black Pearl. You said this: it had been more than 2 years, and Freddie Williams and I decided to contact his uncle. And I want our audience to remember that 2 years, the Jackson 5 producer, to see if we were on the road to riches with our songs. Time revealed that we were nowhere in their league, let alone anywhere close to being famous. I want to talk about that because I thought it was interesting the wording you chose. Because
Yes.
I think a lot of times people don't realize this is a marathon and not a sprint.
Yep.
You talked about the 2 years. You talked about the time showed, what was actually the truth. How important was that for you to realize that, for one thing, that this was not about trying to achieve something overnight, but also realizing that time would tell not only if you guys had the talent, but also the endurance for it.
Right. The thing was, it was kind of crazy back then because we would try in any and every way to become that next Jackson 5. And,
Mhm.
we would consult Freddie every now and then and say, how are we doing? And he would kind of almost be, you're not there yet. So for the most part, and, we had turned in a couple recordings and, I guess based on his response, kind of made us realize that, we were not in any way or any league near the Jackson 5.
Yeah.
So we all kind of decided that eventually we just decided to move on.
Yeah, yeah. And what a journey you've moved on to. So now you're that Freddie, um, for someone else. What was that
Yes.
like for you to think about as you were writing? Is that really that it was almost inevitable, the path you were able to be on as an agent, considering what you yourself had experienced, but also was able to realize.
Yeah, the thing is, and it sticks in my mind what Freddie said to me, and I hope that I can someone impact someone's life or their career like he did mine because I lived on every word that he said.
Hmm.
But he made me realize that, where I was kind of deviating from what I wanted to do to what he kind of told me and suggested I should do
Hmm.
was something that I really needed to focus on.
It's a great reminder for us all. And that's why I'm so glad that we were able to have this time with you, Mark, to kind of walk through this. I want to let our audience know next week we're going to be, as we told you guys last week, we're kind of breaking this series down. For one thing, to what you guys' appetite, but also if you have not gotten the book, The Show Must Go On, now is your time to do it. Not only to be a part of these conversations, but also you may have your own questions that you may want to ask Mark as well. So again, for you guys joining us on the Amazon side, make sure you guys get the paperback copies I have here. It's $21.99. You guys can see it there, or you can get the Kindle edition for $14.99. Now, what we did for you guys today, if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you'll find the Amazon link there for you guys. For those joining us on X, we'll put it in the comment section when we wrap up here. For those joining us on Instagram, we'll put it in our stories. Wahida Clark, hey, Wahida, good to be able to see you. Wahida's over on IG. She says peace and blessings to my family members. It's good to be able to see you. Wahida's good people. So again, if you guys have not gotten your copy of the book, make sure you guys do that. It is a fascinating read, Mark. Again, as I told you, when Mr. Ellaby first told me about you, I didn't know your story at all. So it's really interesting to be able to see that. You know, for people who have seen you, as we wrap up here, people who have seen what you've done for other artists, Mark, what has it been like for them, for those who've read The Show Must Go On, to be able to see the backstory as to how you became who you are today?
You know, it's been crazy because everyone has really expressed, they didn't know my story, but when they read it, they were just, blown away by some of the things that I did and some of the people I worked with. I've just always been that type of humble person. I was never really that person who was boasting and always talking about what I did. So, it's good to hear what I'm hearing from the people that have read it. Yes.
Amy is over on Amazon. Hello to you, Amy. Amy has a question for you, Mark. I
Sure.
wanted to know about Prince, what Prince was like.
Well, there's not a lot I can really talk about Prince because of the confidentiality, but Prince was just a great person. If you got to know him and he got to know you, he felt comfortable with you. The doors were open. We had limited time with Prince because it was all basically business, and it wasn't more of a social situation with him and I. Um, but it was just a great experience. Just to be able to be in his presence, to do work for him, to get the feedback, from him was just something that I would never imagine.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Amy. Appreciate you guys watching on Amazon. Amazon. Again, Dr. Bernada, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hello to you over there on IG. Appreciate you guys being with us. Again, everyone, Mark Money Green has been our guest. This is part 2 of our series with Mark here on Amazon Live, talking about the book, The Show Must Go On. Next week, we're going to talk about 3 of the individuals he addresses in the book, talking about what it was like for him to be to work with them, and also the lessons we can all glean from that. Again, make sure you guys get your copy of the book here on Amazon. But Mark, let our audience know, how can they stay connected with you?
Yes, you can reach me on Celebrity Talent Inc. for Instagram and Celebrity Talent Agency on Facebook. And of course, you can buy the book at markmoneygreen.com as well.
All right. Mark, congratulations to you again. Looking forward to part 3 next week, man.
Thank you.
More than welcome. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.